dear 11th graders, my name is Dr. Munca-Aftenev, and today we're going to talk about young adult fiction. I'm sure you love reading books, and it is not true that the young generation nowadays is not interested in literature. So, I prepared a special lesson for you. We're going to talk about the most popular young adult books that have been published in the last decade, and I hope that you will find today's lesson interesting and at the same time useful. You will learn a lot of vocabulary that you will find especially handy when discussing your favorite book. I hope you're ready. We're going to start with the challenge. On the screen, you can see 8 covers from some of the most famous books that have been written in the last few years. What do you think these books have in common? We have The Book Thief. I have this at home in Romanian and English, by the way. Charlotte's Web, a very popular book. Chronicles of Narnia. You probably are familiar with the movie. We have The Hunger Games, which again is very famous. The Golden Compass, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Giver, and of course, Harry Potter. So, I'm going to repeat the question. What do all these books have in common? According to Time, these are examples of 100, some of the best young books that were published recently, and these books have been extremely successful, not just with young people, but also with adults. Now, why is it the world of literature so exciting? Because a lot of celebrities, including singers and actors, were interested in becoming authors of young adult literature. For example, 50 Cent, or Hilary Duff, Tyra Banks, and of course, Macaulay Culkin. So all these celebrities were interested in writing books that fit under the category of young adult literature. And of course, Kendall and Kylie Jenner, and their book is Rebel City of Indra. Check it out in English, of course. So what is the young adult fiction? Young adult fiction is a category of fiction written for readers from 12 to 18 years old. While the genre is targeted to adolescents, approximately half of the readers are in fact adults. The subject matter and genres of young adult fiction correlate with the age and experience of the protagonist. Common themes related include friendship, first love, relationship, and identity. So, what is genre, by the way? Genre is a category of artistic expression, as in music, literature, marked by distinctive style, form, or content. So, we are discussing right now the young adult fiction genre, which also includes a lot of varieties of other types of literature. Librarians were in fact the first ones to start using this category, this name. So, they were the first who were calling teenagers young adults in the mid-40s. For example, librarian Margaret Scoggin from New York Public Library wrote a journal article introducing the term and arguing that the group constituted a new service population. Thereafter, the two designations, teenager and young adult, were typically used interchangeably by librarians and educators. So, thanks to librarians, now you, the young readers, represent a special category of service for librarians and books in general. The practice of referring to young adult literature was formalized in 1957 when the American Library Association created its Young Adult Services Division, which focused librarians' attention on how to serve this new population and what are the types of books that young readers love reading. Interchangeable means capable of being put or used in the place of each other. Okay? So the terms young adult and young adult fiction were used interchangeably. Formalized means made official. So the term was made official in 1957. Young adult fiction is always changing, ranging from sci-fi or fantasy, paranormal, wizards, vampires, and dystopian future worlds to more classical themes such as self-identity, friendship, family, and self-accomplishment. What is utopian and dystopian? So these are genres of speculative fiction that explore social and political structures. So utopian fiction portrays a setting that is perfect and usually agrees with the author's ethos, and as a rule is a perfect world, as I said. Dystopian fiction offers the opposite. It's the portrayal of a setting that completely disagrees with the author's ethos. Let me give you some examples. So speculative means theoretical rather than practical, not based on fact or investigation. So of course all these books are based on fantasy, on the way the writer imagines the world, and they're not real. Ethos means values peculiar to a specific person, culture, or movement. So utopian and dystopian refer to the author's ethos. It means they refer to the writer's values, whether he or she agrees or disagrees with the values promoted in that particular book. For example, dystopian fiction, and you can see the Hunger Games, all right, Divergent series, offers a vision of the future. Dystopias are imagined societies in cataclysmic decline, dehumanizing and frightening, with characters who battle environmental ruin, technological control, and government oppression. Dystopian novels can challenge readers to think differently about current social and political climates, and in some instances can even inspire action. And if you have read all these books, or if you have watched the movies, you know exactly what this refers to. So cataclysmic, causing destruction or much change. Oppression, the act of subjugating by cruelty and force. Now, let's move on to some specific examples. And first, we're going to refer to The Hunger Games. That is based on the book written by Suzanne Collins in 2009. Suzanne Collins' dystopian smash hit, which spawned a hugely successful film franchise, paved the way for dozens of young adult books set in post-apocalyptic worlds. For example, The Hunger Games takes place in a future America, imaginative of course, where society is divided into 13 districts. The further away the district is from the capital, where society is rich and powerful life, the worse the standard of living and the status of its people are. Katniss Everdeen, main character, lives in District 13 with her mother and young sister, Prim. What is a smash hit? It's an unusually successful hit with widespread popularity and, by the way, huge sales. Paved the way. So the book paved the way for create a situation in which it's easier for someone to do something or something to happen. So the book paved the way for a very successful movie franchise, and I'm sure you have watched the Hunger Games series. So, when Prim's name is called at the district female champion for the Hunger Games, which is an annual fight to the death between the districts played out for the capital's amusement, unfortunately, Katniss volunteers in her sister's place. The Hunger Games and its sequels, Catching Fire and Mockingjay, introduced one of young adults' best modern-day heroes, a teenage girl trying to be brave and honorable in the most terrible of circumstances. I do agree with this quote, and the main character of the book does indeed set a role model of behavior, sister love, and courage, which we are all admiring, not just in the movies, but in the books as well. So, young adult fiction stories focus on the specific challenges of youth, and that's why they are sometimes referred to as problem novels or coming-of-age novels. It's a very interesting and useful term. Please memorize it. Young adult fiction was developed to soften the transition between children's novels and adult literature. These novels have been created especially for you. And now, let's move on to the next example. The Catcher in the Rye, written by J.D. Salinger in 1951. Angsty teenager who thinks everyone else is the worst, hates everything in his life, and is lost? Although The Catcher in the Rye is often classed as a literary classic and was aimed at adults, it's also very much a young adult novel. Salinger's book follows 17-year-old Holden Caulfield and tells the story of his unhappiness at boarding school, his fraught relationship with his fellow students, who he thinks are phonies, and his tense family life. I'm pretty sure many other teenagers share the same problems and the same challenges, which is why this book is especially interesting to that age segment. So angsty is another word for full of anxiety and frustration. Fraught relationship with his family and his parents means tense, marked by anxiety and distress. And phony, the character believes that his friends at school are phony, which means not genuine or real, sham or counterfeit, deceptive, false, or dishonest. So The Catcher in the Rye, Holden has become an icon for teenage rebellion, and The Catcher in the Rye is regularly voted one of the best English language novels of all times, which is why we strongly recommend for you to read the book in English, of course. Another example that we're all in love with is The Fault in Our Stars, based on the book written by John Green in 2012. Make sure you have a box of tissues by your side when reading The Fault in Our Stars, because you're definitely going to cry a lot. John Green's novel follows Hazel, who aged 13 was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which has since spread into her lungs. Although she's been battling with the disease for years, she knows her diagnosis is terminal. So terminal means fatal, causing or ending in death. Hazel's determination to stay aloof and unconnected is shattered when she meets Augustus Waters at the Center Kid Support Group and begins to fall in love. Augustus opens her eyes to a world of adventures, big and small, but also to the potential for great loss and grief. The Fault in Our Stars is tender and heartbreaking, but also a funny and thrilling book. At First Light and Friendship. And I'm sure you have watched the movie, which I think is a very good portrayal of the story written by John Green in 2012. So stay aloof means emotionally reserved, indifferent, distant, uninvolved. So the main character is trying to stay aloof and then shattered, but her plans were shattered, which means ruined, destroyed, or spoiled, because things change and sometimes life brings in changes and surprises. Thrilling means stimulating, vibrating, exciting. Now, one interesting thing about this book. The title is The Fault in Our Stars. So, in fact, this phrase has been taken from Shakespeare. Cassius, a Roman nobleman, uttered this phrase when he was talking to his friend Brutus in Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Here is in fact trying to persuade Brutus to stop Caesar from becoming a monarch, and act he thinks is in the best interest of the country. He's arguing that it is not fate, but their weak position that is exploiting them to act against their will. And now I hope that we made you curious and you're going to check out all these books that were acclaimed by literary critics and of course won worldwide attention from young readers from around the world. And now let's move on to another section of today's video lesson. We are going to talk about idiom books, and I prepared the list of 10 idiom books. The first one is probably very easy and you're familiar with it, a closed book. So when someone is a closed book or a topic is a closed book, it means that we don't know much about it. And the opposite is an open book. If you say about someone or something that it's an open book, it means that it's easy to know about that person, or the details about that thing or person are widely known or could be made widely known because there is no secret. Okay, so closed book and open book, two opposite expressions. Read someone like a book. So if you understand easily how someone is feeling or what other people are thinking, then you can read them like a book. This means also that they could be predictable or easy to understand. Another expression is the oldest trick in the book. This refers to the dishonest action that has been used many times before. So if someone is trying to cheat or to cut corners, you say, that's the oldest trick in the book, which means that has been done in the past and I can see what you're trying to do. To be in someone's good books, used for saying that someone is pleased with you. Okay, so if someone likes you or likes what you do or agrees with your option and with your ideas, with your thoughts and sayings, then you say, I am that person's good books. By the book. If you do everything correctly and you follow the rules, you say, I did everything by the book. Bring someone to a book. If someone has broken a rule and you're trying to direct his or her attention and try to persuade them to do the right thing, then you say, I'm going to bring you to book, which means to punish someone when they have done wrong. Okay? Bring someone to book. Take a leaf out of someone's book. It refers to copy what someone else does because they are successful at doing it, all right? So you take a leaf of somebody else's book, which means you are getting inspired from someone else's actions. Don't judge a book by its cover, a very famous phrase. You can hear it a lot in spoken English, in dialogues, and even in songs, right? So don't form an opinion about someone only from their appearance. And the last is cook the books, which is an interesting expression I personally like, to change accounts and figures dishonestly usually to get money. So for example, a dishonest accountant might or could cook the books, which means might alter the data, the figures in a record or in a book in order, to achieve a specific goal. Of course, this is most of the time illegal. I hope you found all these idioms exciting and challenging at the same time, but you will do your best to use them next time when you describe your relationship to someone you like, someone you're trying to understand, or someone you're trying to punish, or someone you're trying to guide to do the right thing. Thank you for your attention, and please stay connected. There are so many more exciting video lessons in our digital library. All the best.